The Legionaries of Christ put out a report talking about the abuse that has occurred within the Legionaries of Christ, a Catholic religious order. Its founder, Martial Maciel, the Catholic priest, had abused at least 60 boys in this very conservative and traditional religious order. The A lot of people don't know about the Legionaries of Christ, especially those who are not Catholic. So within the Catholic Church, there's a lot of different religious orders. There's and each one of them does something a little bit different. So there's the Franciscans that follow after Saint Francis. There's the Society of Jesus, which is the Jesuits that follow after Saint Ignatius. There's the Benedictines that follow after the life of Saint Benedict. And so all of these different religious orders, uh, their founders or the saint that they go after, they live in the spirit of that person. So the founder of this religious order, the Legionnaires, Martial Maciel, um, created a bunch of strict rules for young men that wanted to become a Legionnaire of Christ. And so I stumbled upon a website called regainnetwork.org. It talks about the um, different harmful groups in different religious orders and in different churches around the world. And one in particular is the Legionnaires of Christ. And so the article is titled What Every Parent Should Know About the Legionnaires of Christ. And so it talks about how when boys enter the Legionnaires or they find a interest in the Legionnaires, the parents actually don't really know much about it. But the Legionnaires, those who recruit, either often brothers or priests or a combination of both, they often get to these boys by attending different youth groups and becoming like a father figure to these different kids to recruit them. And so the once these kids are recruited from their parents' houses, which I mean it's happened to my different friends, and some of my friends have actually almost been Legionnaires of Christ, and I've actually known guys that have been Legionnaires. And when they enter the seminary, a seminary is where they study to become priests. Their whole lives are controlled. They wake up in the morning. They have a rigorous schedule, and in this article it says he will live under a set of strict of draconian rules. Now, draconian is, an excessive, harsh, or severe. So this religious order is very conservative, and so within the Catholic Church, it's often shown to be that if you're more on the conservative side, you're more strict, or you're more prude, or which is not always correct. But in this instance, um, I'll just give you a few examples of how they kind of live their life. So, for example, they have here when they enter the seminary, they'll eat things such as hamburgers, potato chips, or even apples with a knife and fork. He won't be allowed to walk up a set of stairs 2 steps at a time, and he will not be able to cross his legs when sitting down, and he will have to take a shower wearing a bathing suit. Uh, let's see. You can't have regular phone conversations with your parents. Uh, he won't have his own email address, but he can write you a letter. Let's see. The Yeah, they don't go to a traditional university. They don't learn any job skills, and they only receive like a theology degree, which can be only used within the Catholic realm. So like your theology degree can only be used as a Catholic, priest, or if you leave, you can be like a teacher at a Catholic school. But they make it so where, if you leave the order, it's hard for you to function outside of the order because now you have a degree in theology where you can't use in the outside world and you have no practical skills. So the other um, Some of the other rules towards the families is that the families can't visit that often, uh, maybe once a month. Uh, but the families are always encouraged to give money. They try to avoid these men, so it's a very strict environment. They try to avoid them, reading books, magazines, news, the current news. They, I've been to a couple of these places, and they have a library of only books that you're allowed to read, and only certain types of classical music, or certain operas or ballets that they're allowed to see. So it's very controlled environment, but you're taken away from your family. It's very hard for the family because they don't get to talk to their son. But in the son's eyes, he's doing the work of God. He's also a part of something bigger than him. He's also starting to become a priest. There's a lot of different dynamics that go into this, and some of these boys are trained. It's almost like thinking of being a teenager and wanting to do something more, like a modern day hero, you know. And the reason why these religious orders want to keep out all these different forms of news or outside, influences is to tell them, you're going to be corrupted by the world if you read these things or if you participate in this kind of behavior. And we want you to be a very rigid, very good priest. But in doing that, they suppress a lot of feelings. They suppress a lot of their natural inclinations, which some of them can be deviated. And when you're in an environment with a bunch of men, that can easily be your sexuality can easily be manipulated. And this is just things that I've heard from men inside, because if you're around a lot of men and you're not around a lot of women, I mean, what what are your options when it comes to sexuality? And now you're have all these kids that are going through a period of pre-puberty and then post-puberty, and these are young men that are their hormones are going crazy, but at the same time they feel like they are doing the work of God. And the order will sometimes put their family against them to see, because they want a total disconnect from the family. And that's not good. Uh, Anytime you're isolated from your family or people that you love, uh, you can be easily manipulated, And so, this is just one little article about the Legionaries of Christ and some of the tactics that they use. But yeah, that report came out yesterday about Martial Maciel and the different abuses that have been covered up, not just recently, but in 2002 that report came out from the USCCB, the safe environment rules and regulations, and we have seen that the bishops have done nothing to about it. And even in 2006, when Maciel was reported to the Vatican, nothing was done because he gave so much money to the Vatican, and John Paul II looked the other way.